Hello everybody, it's Hans here. Today I'm going to teach you how to tie my Sunny Side Wriggler. So what we've got in the vise for a hook here is the Umpqua XC210BL. This is their Perdi-Jig hook in a size 16, and we have a 3.5 millimeter radiant orange jig bomb from Umpqua. For thread, we're going to do this shell pink, fluorescent shell pink in 70 denier from Ultra Thread. First thing we want to do is get our thread started right behind the jig portion of the hook shank. Go down to about where the hook point is, and then work yourself back forward, and then trim off the tag. Now, what we want to do is we want to build up a thread base that's thick enough to prevent the bead from wanting to fall to the underside of the hook. So you'll see when I bring this bead up here and let go how it falls underneath. So we need more thread. So we're going to build up a bigger thread base here by going back and then back forward, and you'll check again, and we'll probably have to do this one more time. See how it's wanting to roll on me still? So go back and then get that thread back forward, and okay, so see how it's wanting to stay on top of the hook shank? That's perfect, exactly what I'm looking for. Alright, so we'll rock it back out of the way. We're going to tag those thread wraps with some super glue here, just some Z-Mint. And then we'll slide that bead back up onto that thread base. Now we want the front face of the bead to be right in line or right behind the jig portion of the hook, where that hook eye starts to go downward. And what we're going to do to keep that bead in place is we're going to do a series of X wraps on the underside of that bead. So we're going to do about 12 of these. You can see I'm going under the bead and over the hook shank. We're going to do this about 12 times, and I'll rotate this, and you'll see most of these thread wraps are ending up on my side of that bead. So your side, the side that the camera's looking at, not a lot of thread wraps down here. But on my side, you can see the majority of those thread wraps have ended up on my side of the bead. So to get thread wraps to the far side of the bead, we're going to take a half wrap of thread around the bead, and then do that on the other side about 12 times. That's going to build up a nice thread base here. It's going to keep this bead from rolling around the hook shank. Okay, so now, see how we've got good even coverage on the underside there? It's exactly what we're looking for. And then we're going to do a few parachute post style wraps. We're just going to suck all those thread wraps down around the underside of that bead, and then end on the back side here. Now we're going to tag all of that with some super glue again. And that's going to prevent this bead from rolling around the hook shank. Okay, so having the bead, I call this posting the bead, and having the bead on the top of the hook shank, the majority of the weight on the top side is going to make it so the fly is always riding hook point up. Okay, now the next material we're going to use is Hareline Velvet Chenille, micro-sized, and this is worm brown. Okay, we're going to put, so you can see I've stripped some of the material away to expose the core, and we're going to grab that core right behind the bead with a couple wraps. Okay, jump our thread in front, and I've got another section of that worm material here with the core exposed, and we're going to grab this on the front side. Now this is a little awkward. I have to put the material in my right hand, and I'm going to use my left hand, or my material hand, to grab the bobbin and secure that material right in front of the bead. Now it wants to roll on you, so you might need to place it exactly where you want it by just using your finger a little bit. Okay, and that's perfect, and then we'll end with our thread behind the bead. Now, for my Sunny Side Up and Sunny Side Leech and this fly, I've formerly used Eggstasy Nano. That material is no longer produced, so I've found a substitute, and this is called Sunny Side Chenille. So I'm going to show you guys how this stuff works. So this is color salmon. I'm going to go ahead and use my fingernails to pull some of the material away from the core and expose that core so I can get a nice clean tie-in point. Okay, and we're going to grab that right behind the bead here. Now if your thread pushes it away, spin your thread or your bobbin counterclockwise, and it'll make your thread want to jump rearward. Make it a little easier to catch that. We get 5 or 6 good tight wraps on that, and then jump in front of the bead and throw in a half hitch. Okay, now we're going to perform a sequence of wraps with this Sunny Side Chenille. We're going to repeat that sequence 4 times or so. Okay, So the sequence is as follows. I'm going to pull the bobbin towards myself, and we're going to go under the hook shank to the front side of the bead, over the hook shank, and around half the bead. So that was one sequence, okay? Now my bobbin's hanging closer to the camera. I'm going to do that again. Go under the hook shank, in front of the bead, over the hook shank, around half the bead. We're going to continue performing this sequence of wraps under the hook shank in front of the bead, over the hook, around the bead, until we get full coverage on the underside of that bead. Again, under the hook shank. And I'll rotate and look in front of the bead, over the hook shank, around the bead. Now, on this last wrap, I've got great coverage. I'm going to pull this chenille. Oh, see, I lost it there. So let me redo that last wrap. Under the hook, in front of the bead, over the hook, around the bead. Now this last wrap, I want to pull the material downwards and towards the eye. This is what's going to help keep this from coming unraveled. Okay, and then I'm going to grab it in front of the velvet chenille with my thread. We'll give it 3 good wraps on top of that material, that Sunny Side Chenille, a couple wraps in front, and then we can trim off the Sunny Side Chenille. Okay, we're going to go ahead now and do a whip finish under that velvet chenille. Tighten, slide that whip finish up that hook shank a little bit. Okay, and we'll throw one more in just for safekeeping. Doesn't hurt, we have plenty of room here. Okay, and then we can go ahead and trim off our thread. Now, I'm going to do a couple things just to finish this up. Just tuck that chenille down around the bead, so make sure everything's nice and tight. And then we're going to shorten up this front section a tad here, try to make them pretty close to even, and then I like to take a lighter and just singe the end of that, give it a nice taper, and then we'll do that to the back as well. And that is the Sunny Side Wriggler, tied with the new Sunny Side Chenille. This is a great fly when you start to get runoff, which we're going to be getting soon here, or when water is off colored. It really gets the fish's attention. They just can't seem to resist eating it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Or if you would like to buy some of this Sunny Side Chenille, you can contact me on Instagram. My handle is @TroutJuice. Thank you very much.